Welcome to the Who's Next Let's Go show. I'm your host, Mike motherfucking Johnson. I've been in 3 industries over the last 30 years, including real estate, automotive, and restaurant service. Each week, my guests and I will be sharing the stories that make us say, you can't make this shit up. So take a break from the mainstream bullshit and join me for another exciting episode of the Who's Next Let's Go show. Welcome to today's episode of the Who's Next Let's Go show, sponsored by Back Porch Brewing Company and who'snextletsgo.com. Today's guest is from the automotive industry, a good friend of mine. I've probably known him for about 20 years, and we've got a ton of stories to share. So without further ado, we're going to welcome Mr. Jared to the show. And before we get Jared started up, we're going to share a story that him and I were involved in on a fishing trip. And I'm sure you remember it very, very well.
Like it was yesterday.
They tell me I had a good time. I don't remember much. But we used to work for an owner who was obviously very wealthy because he owned a few car dealerships. And when I say wealthy, he was very wealthy. And his son, we were all friends. We all hung out. We all started drinking together and different things. And one day they decided we're going to go fishing. So we get on this really nice boat. And when you break now I want to preface this with the fish and wildlife thing. I wasn't involved and I don't remember anybody's name. But when you get involved in catching the wrong fish out of season, they can actually take your whole boat and all your shit. Yeah. So we were out and we're fishing and drinking. We didn't have Back Porch Brewing Company back then, But we had a lot of beer. And we're out fishing and we're all catching different things. And the captain, he's a super nice guy. He was really knowledgeable about where we're catching fish. So we're catching all kinds of fish and we're taking turns reeling them in and different things. And we're catching certain fish in certain seasons that weren't necessarily correlating with each other. And so we get back in and we're coming back in and I'm fucked up like a soup sandwich, boy. I mean, and I got that phrase from my buddy Pat, by the way, fucked up like a soup sandwich. And so we're getting in and everybody's like, don't say anything about the grouper. I mean, whatever fish we weren't supposed to catch if you're with FWC. And so we're getting back in and there's a line of people up on the thing and he's got such a nice boat, it drew attention. So, and we're all just hammered. And so the people on the shore, hey, did you catch anything? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, well, what did you catch? And I'm like, grouper! Probably loud as shit. And everybody's like, shut the fuck up. And everybody starts hitting me. It was awful. So from then on, everybody called me grouper since we almost lost a $200,000 fishing boat for saying the first grouper.
You gained the nickname that day for sure.
Absolutely.
But Mike, what you didn't say was that about 5 minutes before that coming through the channel, everybody said, hey, let's don't say anything. Catching any grouper. It was not 5 minutes. It had to have been.
Oh, it was. Yeah, it was less than 5 minutes. And first thing out of my mouth, puked it like, grouper!
What'd you guys catch? Grouper!
Were you surprised? I'm not surprised.
Oh man, I was. I'd only been here maybe like 2 months or 3 months. It was really early, and I just moved here from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. So
I blame that on the sun, man. We had beer and we were in the sun and it was hot. It ain't my fault.
We had lots of beer. There's no doubt about that.
I'm surprised we all made it back alive. I mean, it was alcohol poisoning could have set in.
Donzi, Trip, Verado, 350s.
Yeah, this boat was amazing.
Unbelievable. 32-foot Donzi. Unreal.
But anyways, I digress. So I'm sure you have some funny stories to share with us from when we worked together, from when you worked in Coeur d'Alene, because you came from Idaho to come here and work with us. So I'm sure through the 17 years you were in the car business, you have some funny stories. And you used to do finance, which my buddy Mario did finance and did the first show. ¿Qué te pasó, Mario?
You pendejo.
Pendejo, que pendejo. So, and then we can't forget to introduce my buddy Cliff, who's the producer. What's going on, Cliff? You guys, he's in a local arena rock band, so we got to make sure we promote Cliff. I'll let him tell us where or what the name of the band is and where he's going to be whenever he decides to divulge said information. So, Jared, can you tell us what the funniest story you ever had in the car business was?
Yeah, I mean, we started to chat a little bit earlier, and I had to hold myself because it's like the grouper story, it will be forever etched in my brain. And I mean, as you know, I mean, just to kind of let everybody know how the process works. This place that I worked at in Coeur d'Alene, actually, they have a staging area where the salespeople. At this time, I was a salesperson, still early in my tenure in the car business. But they had a staging area where you would pull the trades over after you walked with the client. You would pull the trade over to a staging area where the sales manager would then go for a drive, and then while you were demoing the car you picked out with the client, they would put their final appraisal number on it. And this lady I met on the lot, she was nice. We'd walked around in her car a little bit. The sales managers at that particular dealership wanted to have the registration and insurance card. They could gather a lot of information from those two pieces of paper. So after we walked around, and you know, the typical point out the dent and stick your finger in the tires and let them know there was going to be some deductions.
So they teach you that. Sorry to interrupt, but just so everybody knows at home, they teach you that shit when you're learning how to be a salesman.
That's right.
Don't say anything about the dent.
No.
But touch the
Just
dent.
touch it.
So in their mind, it's a deduct.
That's right.
So sorry to interrupt, but just share with everybody.
Same with the tires. I mean, that was it. That was it. You were just always setting them up for the number that the sales manager was going to put on the car, because as we all know, whether you've bought cars or sold cars, it's a lot lower than anybody thinks, either whether you're the salesperson or the client.
It's amazing. I go to buy a car and I turn in my trade and I'm like, I want this for my trade.
Right, yep.
And I used to do it.
Yes. Yeah. So anyways, I asked this lady, she was a little bit older than myself. At the point, I think I was 29. I'd been in the car business maybe 3 months. And that's when I started, when I was 29. And I said, hey, could you just go ahead and provide me with your registration and insurance card? And she goes, could you go inside, please? I'm a little embarrassed to open my glove box, and that's where my insurance and registration are.
It's going to get good.
I was like, all right, sure, no problem. So I walk away and I go walking in towards the showroom floor, and of course my intrigue is completely peaked.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
I
gotta
what's
be.
in this glove box? Like, I can't
You
wait
know I'm
to
gonna
get
look as soon as she turns her back.
As soon as she turns her back. Now I get to drive it around. I get to drive it around the back here in just a minute. So I'm like, oh yeah, no problem. I'll meet you in the showroom. I'll be right there.
You're there.
Yeah. So I see her getting the passenger side, getting her glove box, and she's fiddling around in there for some time. I couldn't imagine why. It's just a couple pieces of paper. But anyways, she finally shows up back in the showroom floor. I ask her for her keys. I take the paperwork up to the sales manager to hand it off so that they can take a peek at her trade while we're out selecting her next car. That's the way we did our process there. So anyway, so I go grab the keys after she comes in and walk out to her car and tell her that I'm pulling it around back, and she didn't say anything more about the glove box at this point. So I'm like, okay. So I go get in the car and I pull it around back, and it's a see-through dealership, so you could see back to the area where the sales managers were and where I pulled her car in. And so I'll pull back around in the back, and of course I took about 0.8 of a second to figure out I was going to go ahead and look in the glove box.
Not even that long.
Oh, it wasn't long at all. Like, there was a part of me that said, nah, you probably shouldn't. And then that part of me got slapped quick. Get the fuck out of your mind.
Go look in there right now.
Damn straight you're looking in that glove box. So I reach over and I open the glove box, and I don't even get to move the glove box down before it flies open. And there must have been at least 3 dildos in this lady's glove box in her car. And so not only are they in there, but they fall out onto the floorboard. And so I'm like, oh, I gotta pick these up somehow. I gotta put them back. She can't know. She can't know that I looked inside of her glove box.
The travelers.
I'm gonna have some questions after
Buddy,
this.
so I gotta tell you, I'm looking around all over the place for a napkin or a paper towel or something, and there is nothing. So
Tell the truth. You picked him up and hit yourself in the face. You went like this. Oh, why did this keep happening to me?
I knew the bathroom was close, right by where I was going to walk in. And by the time, I swear, I literally stepped out of the car and she was 2 feet away from me. And she saw me, like, our eyes met. And she was not angry, not 1 second. Her face was red. We both had to have the pinkest faces on the planet. because both of us were as completely embarrassed as I could possibly imagine. So it's not only funny, but probably the most embarrassing story of my 17, 18 years.
Well, I got a couple questions.
I said, I was going to go get something to pick those up, but you can handle it, right? She was like, yes, sir, go back inside. I'll meet you back in there. She didn't leave. She wasn't mad about it. It was this.
I got a few questions. Because you know that inquisitive mind want to know.
That's right.
First of all,
No, she was not attractive. I know that's going to be number one.
that eliminates the first question. Was
I
her,
will say, she wasn't unattractive either.
oh, in that situation, I mean, your standards go down a little bit just for the show.
I mean,
Just for the show. So, but
when
was
props
her,
are involved, it
when
go
there's
down.
props are involved, your level of
Yeah, you can give and take.
this is getting a little interesting. So, anyways, was her windows tinted?
Her windows were tinted, yes.
So if you were at a red light,
Oh boy.
Who tints their windows in Idaho?
Oh man,
if you have dildos in here, you tend to want to tint your windows.
If you are working the driver's seat,
So if you're at a red light giving it all you got at 6,000 RPMs, you probably don't want people looking in your car.
I mean, I tell you what.
I mean, just all shit. Now, were there batteries?
One of them was embarrassing enough to myself that I didn't pay much attention to the rest, to be honest.
Were you embarrassed because the size was more than what you had to offer?
Dude, it was more than my horse when I was little had to offer, dog. This lady was about, I'd say she was older right now, right? So this was 20 years ago. She was my age now, which is even more embarrassing to say, but
I just
she
want to
had
know.
put in some work because that thing isn't fitting very many.
We're not going to go down that path, but good Lord. I got a question, another question, a follow-up question. What point can you not, how far away from your house to your work do you need to be that you can't get from your house to your job and back without having to rub one out?
Without cleaning, that's what I don't understand.
I mean, you got to
Not only that, but if you know you're going to the car store, how you going to get your whole bag of tricks and put them in the glove box? I don't know. Was it meant to be?
Was she trying to just, did you sell her a car?
I did.
Did she transfer the dildos from the
and I
glove
gave
box?
her a gigantic garbage bag to clean out her car, and she laughed. I gave her a 55-gallon black plastic
One of
garbage
those
bag.
lawn
Dude, I'm telling you, you could have put
That's crazy.
a whole yard of grass in.
I mean, what in the world? I just find it hard to believe you live that far away. You can't wait to get home.
It's Idaho.
Man.
So, I mean, everything's spread out. So, you got city, and then you got a bunch of towns out around the outside. So, she either had a morning, she either had to get her day started right, or she had to get that drive home fixed.
Now, we've all bought and sold cars in this room. I'm sure Pat and I'm sure everybody's bought and sold. You just bought a car. So when you're going to the car store, in my mind, you would think, well, in my case, I take out my golf clubs, I take out all the stuff. I go in with my car pretty empty.
Yeah.
And you know when you're going to go to a car store. Hey, it's not like you drive down the road. Oh, look, a Cadillac store.
Right.
I'm going to go pull in there. No, you know you're going. You know you're in the market for a car. You've probably done a little research. You should have probably taken them out.
Yeah, you would think.
So unless you're trying to really get a deal, and then you don't put them and hide them in the glove box, you put them right on the seat.
Although she did tell me there was something in there she was embarrassed about. So, I mean, who's not going to look?
I've seen some crazy stuff in people's trades, as I'm sure we all have. But what kills me is when you're going to a car store and you leave your big 400-pound pit bull in the car and say, you can go look at my car, but you can't drive it. My dog's in there.
Right.
Well, why the fuck would you bring your dog?
I don't even understand.
And you think I'm going to get in the car? And that's all automatic deduct if I can't drive it. Because in my mind, it doesn't run, doesn't start.
Right. Brakes are bad.
Brakes are bad. So why would you
check engine lights on?
Because if you think I'm getting bit by a pit bull to go fucking look at your car, that's a $500 piece of shit. It's a 2022.
That's right. Pass.
So what's the most, I guess that could be the most shocking thing too, but I mean, I'm sure you got another shocking story.
Man, I tell you, when I first moved here, I worked for a guy we worked for the same guy. And
Looked like a silverback gorilla.
Oh, buddy, I'm telling you, you started to tell this story earlier too, and I had to tell you to stop because we were going down the same road of what I had already thought of for this conversation, and that was whether it was a vendor or an employee or friends of family or what, that office, I never realized how many closed door meetings were not actual closed door meetings until one time I was sitting at the desk where I don't even know if it was you or it might have been Jeff. It might have been Jeff at that time, but I'm sitting at the desk and I always wondered, like, what's going on in that office, right? But it's the GM's office, so I just figured that the ladies came down from upstairs. They had business, or if vendors came in, they had business, and they were just being quiet because sometimes that showroom floor could be loud.
It was actually me. Because the day we had the revelation was the day the blonde lady came out, and she was all disheveled.
Buddy, that's
shit was
exactly
all,
what I was
glasses
about
all
to say.
crooked.
Oh, that's what I was just about to say. Like, for whatever reason, I just happened to have been looking at the door
She
when
worked
she
for,
walked
like-
out. And our eyes caught, and she was busted. Buddy, she had the most busted look on her face, and our eyes met. And I know I had to have been grinning ear to ear because I knew exactly what was going on in that
And I
bathroom.
looked at you looked at me, and we looked at her. Her glasses, her hair's all fucked up, and her glasses are all disheveled. She worked for like autotrader.com or something.
Oh, yeah.
And next thing you know, our whole used car platform changed to autotrader.com.
100%. I know exactly. I could even tell you her name. I'm still friends with her on LinkedIn.
And she was so embarrassed, but she had, and it was a steady flow.
Buddy,
I'm like, this motherfucker, how is he not exhausted?
I'm telling you, we had at that point immediately, we knew exactly which ones opened that door and came out, whether they really had business or pleasure in that office.
After that day, every time, we weren't cognizant of it before. We never thought anything of it. But
Never.
after that day, everybody we went in there, we're looking when they come out and they got FFG all over.
Yep,
Freshly fucked glow. But then it was hard for us too, because every time somebody went in there and did that, the next day we had a new CRM or we had I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
It was awful.
Yeah.
So
And you know, I mean, we can talk about the vendors and all that all we want, but it was a minute there we were like, she works here. No, that's not one of them. Oh yes, it is. Oh yes, it is.
So he wasn't.
Oh, wait,
he
she
was
works
a
here.
smart guy, very sharp guy. But we got his little system figured out. If you left the door open, she was no danger.
No danger.
But if that door was closed, boy, oh boy, was going to work. We knew we had some more platforms changing the next day, and it was tough. We didn't get payroll on time that time either, just for the record. Our paychecks were late because that one lady came out of there. Oh, I'm sure you've seen some shady stuff along the way what's the shadiest thing you ever seen?
Man, I gotta tell you, when I hear this is a Florida thing, and so every time I hear Florida man, I go, yep, worked with a few of those.
Oh, I got something to say.
Oh.
If you ever hear a motherfucker from Florida go, hold my beer.
Oh.
Don't do it.
Don't
Some
do it,
bad
no.
shit's getting ready to happen.
That's right.
Dude,
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Hold the beer.
Do not hold the beer.
Do not.
Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead and tell your story.
Yeah, so I followed a good friend of mine actually who was in finance with me. As everybody knows, tracks just run out at certain stores. You know, within that industry, people move around quite a bit.
Oh, it's all politics too. It's never
Because of
based on performance.
Yeah, it's never based on performance. It's always based on the next GM bringing his guys in. That's it. I mean,
It's all politics and bullshit.
It's really what it is. So I luckily got to be one of those guys. I was a friend of the
Silverback
the
Gorilla?
finance. No, this was
Oh,
the
this was-
finance
after
rep.
that.
Yeah, yep. And so I was a friend of the finance products company who was servicing this other dealership, and they had just built a new dealership. So they were in the middle. I'm sorry, they were in the middle of building a new dealership. So
New construction.
new construction,
Okay.
new showroom floor, and they were working all the car deals out of a construction trailer. And so one day I'm sitting in my finance office, which was in the old used car building, which isn't even there anymore. Not the same place. I know that one left too, but and all three managers came in: the general manager, the used car manager, and the general sales manager. All three came into my office, and they were like, "Hey man, we need your office. We need to have a meeting." And I was like,
You mean like get out?
in my office? Okay, sure, no problem.
out.
I grabbed a few things, put my compliance things away in the drawers, and got out of my office. And I kept kind of like looking to see if my door was open, and it wasn't. 2 hours later, my door opens. I was like, man, I worked for
That's a
the
long
Silverback Gorilla. That is a long meeting.
At least with the gorilla, you were in and out. Boy,
Yeah,
yelled at, screamed at,
quick.
motherfucker, then you were gone.
Buddy, I'm telling you what, I've never had faster sales meetings or management meetings.
You suck. I hate you. Get out. Perfect.
Yeah, you weren't going to work here if this continues. Well, you did it. Anyway, I digress. Now, my turn. So, after a 2-hour meeting, I'm just calling banks and rehashing deals and kind of doing my job. And somebody comes, one of the other finance managers, actually the guy who brought me to the store, comes in and he goes, "What was that all about?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know. I was hoping you could shed some light on it for me." And he goes, "Well, let's find out." So he pulls out a white handkerchief and he rubs it across my desk and turns and shows it to me. And it was as blue as your shirt, if not more blue. Those dudes were in there for 3 hours chopping it, or for 2 hours chopping it up, just getting
The general manager, the general sales
all
manager.
3 of them.
So,
All 3 of them.
I know the dealership you're talking about.
And the only way I can, obviously the blue dust confirmed it all, but for 2 weeks before that, I was like, what is going on around here? I've never seen a sales manager falling asleep at his desk while working a car deal. And I'm naive to the whole deal because I don't know anything about that.
That's right.
Substance
You're
or
from
whatever.
Idaho.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm from the woods. I might participate in the devil's lettuce once in a while back then, but
So when you first said, I know the dealership you're talking about. So when you first said you were working out of a trailer, I felt like most of your customers would be okay with that because they live in a trailer buying that brand of car.
absolutely right. Absolutely
They came right from over there off in
out of the woods.
Out of the woods.
out of the woods. We'll
Out of
just
the
say
woods.
that from a trailer.
Bada bang, 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 bang,
Hold my
bang.
beer. I'm gonna go buy a car.
And it was Norm. Like the guy that came in and said, "Here, I'll show you what they were doing." Like he knew.
Well, and then if you ever saw a 700 Beacon store at that store, you were
Buddy.
you were like, what are y'all doing in
What a
here?
dream.
You're way too high.
They got lost.
They got lost. Aren't you supposed to be at a Toyota store?
Got you a great rate.
17.5
The lowest rate I've seen all month.
state max. Oh, well,
Goodness. So many stories.
yeah, there's
We can do this for hours.
hours, but unfortunately, where are we looking on time, Mr. Cliff? We got 5 minutes. Oh, Mario's got a story he hasn't told.
I got no
So he's in finance, you're in finance, and Mario has some. He missed a story last time, so we're going to let him tell
Let's
this story
go.
this time, and you'll appreciate it because you're a finance guy.
right.
Oh, which story? Oh, that story.
Yeah.
You know, once again, back in the old days, when I was a rookie at, and I can say it because they're still gone, GMAC.
They're still gone.
They're still gone.
Well, they may have just changed names, but I got you.
I got on I had to go retrieve this particular vehicle way out of our service area. And this is the night before Thanksgiving.
Oh, is this the hospital?
Oh, yeah. So what happened was I pull up into this guy's house. There's the car in the driveway. I park behind the car. I go bang on the door. The guy's wife comes out. And she says, "My husband's in the hospital. You can't take the car." Now, at that point, I didn't have the key to the car, so I couldn't take the car unless I got the key. So after some negotiation with the wife, she says, "Why don't we go to the hospital? If he says it's okay, I'll give you the key."
Wait to hear this. Thank God we didn't have to repo shit.
So I go, "Okay." So we get into my company car. Okay?
Hold on. Have
We
velour
get it.
seats?
This was the blue Cavalier.
The blue Cavalier with the
we
velour
get moved on.
seats.
We get into the blue Cavalier for those of you, prior episodes. So
Thanks for coming, man.
we get in the car. In the meantime, you'll remember this name from prior episodes. My tow truck driver, Copperhead, was circling around. We go to the hospital. We go up, and I didn't realize at the time, but this guy is in ICU. Now, I don't know how, but they let us walk into his room, and there he is, and he's got tubes and wires and all kinds of stuff hanging all over him. And I said, hey, I'm Mario, and I'm the GMAC rep, and I need the key to your car because I'm going to repossess it right now. And he absolutely goes bonkers. The lights on the machine.
You're giving him hand signals like Shamu.
You'd have been terrified if it had flatlined.
And we're going, uh-oh. I need to get out of here. So I take running down the hallway. Okay?
Did you get the key?
I got the key. I'm running down the hallway. I step into the elevator. The wife decides she's going to hold the door. She gets in the doorway, holds the door like this, and I do the right thing. I push her. Door closes down, I go. Okay? At this point, we get down. We're on the first floor. I walk outside, and here comes Copperhead in the tow truck with the car on the hook.
Already grabbed it.
Already grabbed it, right? Car on the hook, and he swings right in front of, where the emergency room.
Yeah.
It had a little.
He's got the little portico thing, and I jump in the passenger seat of the tow truck with Copperhead. And as I drive out, I look back, and what do I see? I see my customer in an assless gown run outside.
No way.
From ICU.
From ICU.
He saw you.
And once
Take
again,
his
I'm
shit.
thinking, my
I can just see him just like,
my career
And that shit hurts too. Got hair on
bastard
me.
ain't taking my car.
is over.
Yeah.
And you know what? It wasn't for some miracle. Thank you. I never.
Well, you never lost your job because you didn't put any of that shit in the report.
Well, of course you're not going to write that in the report.
No, you just put clean recovery, car parked in 5A.
Well, what I heard is that because they had to readmit the guy back into the hospital because you leave the hospital, they have to readmit you.
Yeah, you refused medical care at that point.
It's like he ran away. Which he kinda
Unbelievable.
did. And you know what? I hope he's still with us and living well. Highly doubt it.
I'm like, was it last week? Because I'm saying no.
No, that fucker's dead.
This was a long time ago. But yeah, we got the car.
So
Unreal.
So he couldn't pay his car bill. Do you think that hospital bill came and just sent him over the edge? He flatlined right after that.
Don't take it.
Thank God for Copperhead.
Oh, that's some funny stuff. Well, guys, I appreciate you coming out today. Thanks, everyone, for coming out to the Who's Next Let's Go show, sponsored by the Back Porch Brewing Company and who'snextletsgo.com. Stay tuned for the next episode next week. We're going to have someone from the restaurant business coming, so it's going to be a great show then. We'll see y'all next week, and don't forget to stop by the Back Porch Brewing Company and tell them Mike sent you. Thanks so much. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Who's Next Let's Go show. If you want to hear more, you can catch new episodes on Wednesdays at noon, and all episodes will be on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to follow us on Facebook at the Who's Next Let's Go show.